Ford finally heard us. Ford's CEO has had enough and shut down their entire EV production. Their CEO, Jim Farley, has finally heard the common man, and he's now stopping production and going back to gas cars. Ford already lost more than $4 billion on EVs last year, selling EVs at a shocking loss of $36,000 per vehicle. And get this, their January EV sales are literally the worst in the entire decade. Now, Ford has just ditched EVs and became the #1 car maker again, leaving brands like Toyota, GM, and Tesla eating their dust. But why is Ford going against EVs and winning? Are EVs a scam? Why does no one want to buy EVs anymore? Political leaders have been pushing EVs on the common man, while Ford's CEO secretly went against all EV makers. Here's what exactly happened. Remember when Joe Biden invested more than $9 billion in Ford's EV division, forcing them to make more EVs? Well, Jim Farley just straight up abandoned those EV plans to save his company from closing its doors. For nearly 3 years, Ford has been hyping up its electric vehicles like crazy, be it the F-150 Lightning pickup or the Mustang Mach-E. Ford's EV sales have them bleeding money by the hour. The public has refused to buy overpriced EVs despite the governmental push. As a result, Ford is now going back to gas cars. Why? Because gas cars are the ones making them actual money, and you'd be shocked to know how much exactly, but more on this in a minute. Ford has been secretly cutting down production at their Michigan Rogue EV Center without anyone taking notice. Instead, Ford's adding almost 900 jobs to crank up production of their gas-powered Broncos and Rangers. Here are the numbers. Ford only managed to sell about 4,600 EVs this January. Their so-called flagship Mustang Mach-E only sold about 1,200 units last month, which is a huge 51% drop from where they were last year. Dealer lots are filled with F-150 Lightning pickups, but even with price cuts as high as $15,000, customers just aren't ready to buy them. But why on earth is this happening? The Mach-E starts at $42,995, right? Pretty sweet deal, especially when you stack it up against Tesla's Model Y, which goes for a bit more. But here's the kicker. That Tesla ride gets a fat $7,500 federal EV tax credit, slashing the price to just $36,490. The Mach-E? It's not so lucky. Thanks to some new rules from the Biden crew aimed at cutting down on Chinese battery stuff, the Mach-E got booted from the tax credit club at the start of the year. On to the other side of the story, Ford's gas car sales are up by a whopping 42.7%. It's like people woke up and realized how bad EVs are and now are flocking to buy gas cars again. But last year, they did something crazy good. They sold nearly 2 million vehicles. Both their gas and diesel sales are going up, contributing to billion-dollar profits, while their EV division saw a colossal loss of $4 billion. They're rolling out new models of the F-150, Ranger, Explorer, you name it. But sadly, due to the money Ford has lost on EVs, the company is literally on the verge of extinction. That is, if they stop selling gas cars like the political leaders want them to. Joe Biden has laid out a vicious plan for car makers to make EVs or go bankrupt, but more on this in a minute. And the worst part, customers who already bought Ford EVs aren't having a good time either. Picture this, you buy a shiny new EV thinking you're doing your bit for the planet and all, but then bam, issues start popping up left and right. We're talking about charging nightmares, batteries that just can't handle the cold, and don't even get me started on the repair cost. Imagine shelling out the price of a small car just to fix your EV's battery. It's like the Wild West out there for EV owners. Now here's the kicker. Ford sales were already not looking great, but January hit them like a ton of bricks. Their EV sales plummeted by 11%, while, get this, their combustion cars are actually selling better. It's like we've stepped into a time machine and gone back a decade. Everyone's scratching their heads wondering what the heck is going on. Now, you might be wondering, why did Ford ditch gas cars in the first place when they knew they were going to take a big loss? That's because the government doesn't want you to buy gas cars anymore. You see, the Biden administration rolled out a series of emissions rules under which car companies were forced to sell a minimum number of EVs, else pay heavy fines. But here's where the shady part comes in. While Biden gave the public a $7,500 tax credit on EVs, he also told Ford to increase EV prices. As a result, the prices shot up by nearly $25,000 compared to a gas car, and all that extra money straight into the pocket of our government. And let's not forget how they've been hiking up interest rates too. we're now seeing people paying $500, $800, or even $1,000 every month in car payments. There was one group of people that warned the public about the upcoming EV market crash: the dealers. Last year, nearly 3,000 Ford dealers joined hands and signed a brutal letter threatening Biden to stop forcing EVs. They literally said, "EVs are not selling. Please let the people choose what they want. We're not ready." But nothing was done. So there's this thing called the Ford Model E Certified program, right? It's like Ford's secret handshake for dealers who want to sell their EVs. But here's the twist: not all dealers are feeling it. In fact, some are so not into it that they've started closing shop. And just when things were getting better, Biden dropped yet another bomb. The government's been pushing for a wild shift, wanting 60% of all cars sold by 2030 to be electric. And then, just to turn up the heat, they're aiming for 67% by 2032. I mean, that's like going from zero to hero in no time flat. So now, the car makers are sending a second letter and even urging buyers not to buy these overpriced EVs over gas cars. EVs only made up 8% of total sales last year, and this year looks like things are going to get even worse. Issues like EV fires, Ford's EVs dying on roads due to battery issues, fatal flaws where brakes fail, and much more have caused Ford to recall more than 50,000 EVs in the last quarter of 2023 alone. But Ford isn't closing up the EV shop entirely. As a matter of fact, Jim Farley has also confirmed a secret new fuel that they're working on, which I'll discuss towards the end of this video. This will be coming in a vehicle that'll just cost $20,000, so be sure to watch till the end. But here's the real shocker: Ford's not alone in this mess. GM's been making some pretty drastic moves too. They've ended their EV deal with Honda, called it quits on the Bolt EV, and are shutting down production at other plants as well. It's like they're waving the white flag on EVs. And to add insult to injury, their sales in China are tanking because they can't keep up with the local competition. It's a double whammy that's left them reeling. But not all news is bad. Ford's been also involved in development of a hydrogen engine recently, something which no one thought could be improved. While the exact specs aren't out yet, Ford is working on a 20K car that will come shipped with this hydrogen tech and boast an impressive range of 500 miles. Even Toyota, Honda, and Porsche are in on this venture, focusing on developing alternative fuel sources instead of just pushing EVs upon us. EVs are only a big scam anyways, meant to benefit the politicians, but Ford is finally doing what they should have done a long time ago: listen to their customers and sell us more gas cars. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So all in all, Ford's EV sales are dead in the water, and they're finally going to work on bringing us more gas cars. If Jim Farley doesn't listen to the actual buyers, Ford might have to close its doors. To amend this, they've stopped production, slashed $12 billion in planned expenditures, including scaling down their battery plant in Michigan, and are delaying production at yet another plant in Kentucky. The irony is that while Ford's EVs are struggling, their internal combustion engine vehicles are still their bread and butter. It's like everyone's excited about the future, but they're still clinging to the past. And then there's the human cost. The UAW strike at Ford's plants didn't just throw a wrench in their works, it led to temporary layoffs and a lot of uncertainty for workers. Even after the strike ended, it left a $1.7 billion dent in Ford's earnings. Even the workers don't want EVs to become mainstream. So what do you think? Should political leaders decide what's good for us, or should we get to choose what we want to drive? Let me know down in the comments below. I just uploaded a video about groundbreaking news that could hurt the entire EV industry. Do check it out if you want to be truly shocked by what's about to happen with EVs.